Good evening once again, football fans. Big Al back on this Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, and welcome to the Week 10 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this week and weekend. Alright, so we have two games that are starting in mere moments. We'll have two more on Wednesday, three on Tuesday or Thursday, and then 5 on Friday, including one ranked team, and that's before we get to Saturday. Alright, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the Week 10 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game. Starting off with the two games that are about to get underway in mere moments. Both games start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. ESPN2 has James Madison at Texas State with Jay Alter and Rocky Boyman. ESPNU has Texas El Paso at Kennesaw State with Chucky Kemp and Darius Walker. Then on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is Jacksonville State at Middle Tennessee State with Clay Matvick and Chase Daniel. Then at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network is Florida International at Missouri State. Jordan Kent and Adam Brenneman. Moving on to Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU is Norfolk State at Delaware State with Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. The other two games are at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. ESPN has Tulane at UTSA with Matt Berry and Tom Luginbill. And on ESPN2, it's Marshall at Coastal Carolina with Dave Neal and Fozzie Whitaker. Moving on to Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2, number 25 Memphis at Rice, Ted Emmerich and Dustin Fox. On ESPNU at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is Brown at Penn, Eric Freedy and Jack Ford. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN is North Carolina at Syracuse, Anish Sharaff and Andre Ware. At 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network is Sam Houston at Louisiana Tech, Jack Gordon and Ben DiNucci. And at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is Idaho at Northern Arizona, Courtney Lyle and Renee Ngogila. Now let's move to Saturday. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games starting at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Then you have another at 1 p.m., another at 2 p.m., and two more at 3. Alright, so this is the early afternoon schedule for Saturday. On ABC, it's number 9 Vanderbilt at number 20 Texas with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. On CBS, it's Army at Air Force with Rich Waltz and Ross Tucker. On Fox's Big Noon Saturday, it's Penn State at number 1 Ohio State, Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On NBC, it's Rutgers at Illinois with Paul Burmeister and Jason Garrett. ESPN has number 10 Florida at SMU, Mark Jones and Roddy Jones. On ESPN2 is Navy at North Texas, Lowell Galindo and Aaron Murray. On FS1, it's West Virginia at Houston with Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich. On ESPNU, it's UCF at Baylor, Brian Custer and Craig Halbert. On the ACC network, it's Duke at Clemson with Wes Durham and Steve Addazio. On CBS Sports Network, it's UAB at Connecticut with Fran Charles and Taylor McHardaway. And streaming on ESPN Plus is Buffalo at Bowling Green with Sean Kenny and Marcus Ray. At 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TNT is Arizona State at Iowa State. J.B. Long and Mike Golick Jr. Streaming on ESPN Plus at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific is East Carolina at Temple, Bill Spalding and Barrett Brooks. Then at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific on the CW, it's number 16 Louisville at Virginia Tech with Tom Brenneman and Will Blackman. Also at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific on Silver State Sports and Mountain West Conference Digital is New Mexico at UNLV. There is no broadcast team announced for that game. Alright, moving on to the late afternoon portion of the schedule. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Got another game at 3:45, three games at 4 p.m. Alright, so let's dive in to the late afternoon portion of the Saturday schedule. ABC has number 5 Georgia versus Florida. This is taking place at Everbank Field in Jacksonville with Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. On the Home Depot Big Ten on CBS, it's number 2 Indiana at Maryland with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On Fox, it's number 13 Texas Tech at Kansas State with Jason Benetti and Robert Griffin III. ESPN has number 12 Notre Dame at Boston College with Roy Philpott and Brock Osweiler. On FS1, it's Fresno State at Boise State, Noah Reed and Robert Smith. On BTN, it's Michigan State at Minnesota with Guy Haberman and Yogi Roth. On the ACC network, it's Pittsburgh at Stanford, Chris Cotter and Max Brown. On CBS Sports Network, it's Delaware at Liberty with Dave Ryan, Patrick Peterson, and Adam Brenneman. And then you'll have 3 games streaming on ESPN Plus, including Louisiana at South Alabama, New Mexico State at Western Kentucky, and Old Dominion at Louisiana Monroe. There are no broadcast teams announced for those 3 games. 15 minutes later at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, 12:45 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is number 15 Virginia at California, Mike Cousins and Kirk Morrison. On ESPNU at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific is Central Michigan at Western Michigan, Jason Ross Jr. and Gerard Cherry. On the SEC network, it's Mississippi State at Arkansas, Taylor Zarzour and Matt Stinchcomb. Streaming on ESPN Plus is Oklahoma State at Kansas, Mark Neely and Leisure Duzable. Alright, now we've come to the nighttime portion of Saturday night's schedule. You'll have 4 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 more at 7:30, 1 game at 8, 1 game at 10:15, and the last game is at 10:30. On ESPN at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is South Carolina at number 7 Ole Miss, Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick. On FS1, it's Arizona at Colorado, Tim Brando and Devin Gardner. On BTN, it's Purdue at number 21 Michigan, Jeff Levering and Jake Butt. And on CBS Sports Network at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is Wyoming at San Diego State with John Stadak and Robert Turbin. Then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ABC's Saturday Night Football, you have number 18 Oklahoma at number 14 Tennessee with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. On CBS, it's Washington State at Oregon State with Chris Lewis and Logan Ryan. On Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, it's number 23 USC at Nebraska. Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. On ESPN2, it's number 8 Georgia Tech at NC State. Matt Schumacher and Sam Acho. On the SEC Network, it's Kentucky at Auburn with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. On the ACC Network is Wake Forest at Florida State, George Sedano and Rodney McLeod. At 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU is Arkansas State at Troy, Mike Corey and Teoka Jackson. At 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific on ESPN is number 17 Cincinnati at number 24 Utah, Dave Pasch and Dusty Dvorak. And the final game of the night is at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network. Hawaii at San Jose State, Alex Del Barrio and Randy Cross. And there it is, the Week 10 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game coming up this week. My next video will drop on Thursday, as I'll give you my Week 9 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. So join me for that. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.